Yo, what is up everybody? Today I will be teaching you guys how to complete the square. Now, there are a variety of reasons why we complete the square in math, and for this video, particularly for this problem, we're going to be converting this general form of a parabola into a standard conic form. Now, if you don't know what that means, that's completely fine. The actual completing the square part of the math still remains the same, so definitely stay tuned. I don't know what I'm saying. Okay, now to get actually into the math. We are going to start by grouping together these terms, not just because they're x, because the x is squared right here. Once you notice the x squared on one side, whatever variable it is, whenever you see the variable squared, you want to group that and then move this to the other side of the equation. So we're going to plus 6y and plus 10 to get that on this side of the equation. Okay, my handwriting is going to be so bad for all of these videos because I'm literally using a mouse to do this, but bear with me guys. Did this 6 look like a freaking B? Okay, there we go. That's a lot better. Okay, so the next thing you're going to do, you're going to completely ignore this side of the equation for about the next 4 steps. So I'm not going to continue writing this out. Just know that this right side of the equation remains unchanged while we focus on this left side where the x squared is. So first thing we want to do is get rid of this coefficient 2 right here. It's just going to get in our way and we don't want to deal with it at all. So we're just going to factor it out, put it out there, and put the x squared, and obviously the 2 has to factor in for the 8x, so this becomes 4x, just like that. And again, this remains the same. I'm not going to draw that out. Just know that 6y plus 10 is always going to be on the right side. Next thing you're going to do, you're going to keep the 2 here, and this is important that you draw these brackets because it is such a common mistake to forget the factor in the 2 later in the problem. We'll get into that later. Next thing you're going to do is work with this x squared minus 4x. This is where the actual completing the square part comes in. So what you're going to do, I'm going to write it out, but this is what you're going to do in your head, okay? So like this is like, you know, in your head right now, you're like thinking bubbled. Okay, that is a horrible cloud right there. Just imagine this is what you're thinking in your head when you see this. So in order to complete the square, we want to make this into a perfect square equation. So you're going to take this 4x, right? You're going to take this 4x. That is a horrible 4. Oh my goodness. That needs to be fixed. Look at that 4. We're going to take this 4x and divide it by 2, right? And you're going to get 2 right there. And then you're going to square that. And then you get 4. So you divide whatever b is by 2 and then square it, and then that is your number. That is going to be your c value for this perfect square. So what does the c value give you? So all we're going to do now is keep this in parentheses because we want to keep it grouped. X squared minus 4x plus 4, right? So this right here is a perfect square. This is what we want. This is how we quote unquote complete the square, because we are completing the square with this 4 right here, and this is what you did in your head. This is you, okay? You're like, wow, look what I did in my head. Good. So what you're gonna have to do is after you add this 4, you're gonna have to subtract 4 right after, because you can't add 4 to one side of the equation and call that legal in math. No, you're gonna get arrested. So you have to subtract 4 right away, and that makes it legal. Why is that legal? Because if you add 4 to an equation and you subtract 4 to an equation, that's just basically adding 0 to the equation, and that does not change it at all. And then of course this stays the same. This is 6y plus 10 right here. Now this is where the magic happens. The 2 still has to come down. We're gonna keep these giant braces right here just to keep everything here. Okay, you guys can't really see that, I realized. There we go. And now you guys can see that a little bit better. So now we can turn this perfect square into a squared binomial, or I don't know what the vocabulary is, but this is basically x minus 2 squared. Just trust me that if you multiply this out, this will equal to this perfect square. If you don't know what perfect squares are, you gotta Google that. We're not covering that in this video, but this is a perfect square, so it ends up being that. And then you just have your leftover 4 right here, which is still has to be distributed. So we'll just end off this. This 2 still distributes to the 4, which is the common mistake that everyone makes. Once the 2 distributes to the 4, this becomes negative 8. And now this becomes 6y plus 10. Now we're here. And I need some more room, so I'm gonna open up a new thing. Be right back. Now that you're at this step, you're basically almost done. It's just a few extra steps to get there. Now, the first thing you can do, obviously, just add the 8 to both sides. Now, at this point, there are two things that you can do. The first thing that you can do is either divide by 2 on both sides or factor out the 6. Now, the reason you want to factor out the 6 because there's something called the p-value or the focal length or whatever you call it. Just know that that's part of the standard form of a conic, and we need to factor out the 6 to get a number here. But the first thing we're going to do is divide by 2 on both sides. In my opinion, I think that's just easier. It doesn't really matter which order you do it in, but we're just going to go with that so that we have x minus 2 squared on this left side. Now we're done with the left side. We're leaving x minus 2 right there. Now we're just working with the right side. We divide 2 on both of these. It becomes 3y plus 9. Now factoring is still just as easy. We just factor out the 3 here. So this x minus 2 still comes down, and we factor out the 3 to get the p-value or the focal length. I don't really know why we call it p, but it's called p. We factor out the 3 and it becomes y plus 3. And this right here, ladies and gentlemen, is the standard form of a conic parabola. So this gives you the p-value. This is the h and k vertex. That is how you complete the square in problems like these. If you guys did enjoy, and if this helps you at all, please leave a like and subscribe to this channel. This is a relatively new channel where I am posting how to do my math. Literally, I'm learning this stuff, and I have a test on this next week. So I'm going to try to convince my parents that this counts as studying. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next math video. Peace out.